Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel and welcome back to Best Picture Month. This is part 2 of my double feature retro review series where I talk about two very popular Best Picture winners. And this week is rough, and that's an understatement. So this is my retro review for Schindler's List, which came out in 1993, directed by Steven Spielberg, and was one of 2 movies that he'd released that year. The movie takes place in World War II, more specifically in German-occupied Poland. The Nazis round up all the Polish Jews into a ghetto, and later on basically exterminate them, or at least that's their goal, because, you know, they're Nazis. An industrialist who's a member of the Nazi party, Oskar Schindler, played by Liam Neeson, decides to hire a bunch of the Jews to work in his factory, and while he gets all the profits, the Jews pretty much stay safe in their eyes because the Nazis can't touch a member of Oskar Schindler's workforce. And the rest of the movie pretty much follows the horrors that the Nazis have inflicted on Jews, as Oskar Schindler himself starts to have a change of heart. Now, we all know that last year was the 30th anniversary of one of the most popular movies that Steven Spielberg has ever directed, Jurassic Park. I mean, I love it, y'all love it, it's a masterpiece. But there was another movie that he made in 1993 that I don't think got the same love on its 30th anniversary, and that's Schindler's List. And this is a movie that I have avoided for so long, because growing up, I was always more familiar and more attached to the Steven Spielberg who made movies like E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Jurassic Park. Schindler's List was a movie that I felt was too grown up for me, and the older I got, the more I heard about this movie and how upsetting and disturbing it is. In fact, when I told my mom that I'd finally watched Schindler's List for the first time, she was like, "Oh, yeah, that's pretty rough, huh?" That movie had me crying through the entire runtime. And saying that Schindler's List is rough is such an understatement, because this movie is nearly devastating to watch, but it's an important movie to watch. And especially with current events that are going on right now in the world, it's important that this movie gets talked about more often. We see in this movie how evil and violent the Nazis are to Jewish people, and there's several scenes in this movie that just put me on the edge of my seat in terms of how horrific it is. Right away, I'll just tell you the 2 scenes that left the biggest impact on me in terms of the horrors of this movie. The first scene is when the Nazi commander Amon Goth, played by Ralph Fiennes, takes a Jewish man out and is about to shoot him in the head, and he's accompanied by 2 other Nazi soldiers. But the gun keeps jamming, and there are several attempts to try to get the gun to go off. You're in suspense the entire time when he's eventually going to get shot in the head, but that time never comes. And when that scene ends, you just feel so unnerved and unsettled by what you just witnessed. And the second scene is when a bunch of Jewish women and girls are taken to Auschwitz. They're stripped down and they're put into what appears to be a giant gas chamber. And when that scene happened, I thought, no. No, 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 no. And again, just like with the gun scene, you're sitting there horrified at what's going to happen, because you know, like, the Nazis gassed Jews. This is not going to end well, and then it turns out that they're in a giant shower, and you get this huge sigh of relief because it's not at all what you thought was going to happen, even though it really did build up to that moment. Those 2 scenes, there's part of me that wants to go, screw you, Steven Spielberg, for making me feel so on the edge, but also, I'm glad that he doesn't shy away from these horrific scenes. There are other scenes throughout the entire movie where the Nazis are gunning down Jews in their own home, They strip them down. The things that the Nazis do to the Jewish people is downright inhumane. And again, big props to Steven Spielberg for not shying away from these acts of evil. Now, as for the actors of the movie, we have Liam Neeson playing Oskar Schindler, and he is fantastic. When he starts off, it's clear that he's only concerned about the bottom line. He sees the idea of hiring all these Jewish people to work in his factory as a way to basically save on labor. And you can tell that he's very much a member of the Nazi Party. There's several scenes where he has casual conversations with Nazi soldiers, especially Ralph Fiennes' character. But in the eyes of the Jewish people, they see Oskar Schindler as this hero because they saved them from being executed by the Nazis. And Schindler's just like, yeah, okay, thank you very much. But throughout the course of the movie, Oskar Schindler does have a change of heart and starts to have more humanity towards the Jewish people. And that's especially the case when Oskar Schindler looks over into the ghetto where all the Jewish people are basically weeded out and gunned down, and he sees a little girl in a red sweater. 95% of the movie is filmed in black and white, and that really does catch his eye. But after that incident, he doesn't really seem to have much of a change of heart. That is until that little girl comes back again, but dead and being rolled out in a wagon. At that point, Oskar Schindler really does have a change of heart and views the Jewish people as human beings. So he takes extra precaution to make sure they are safe up until the very end of World War II. When we get to the end of the movie, though, there is that one moment where Oskar Schindler does break down crying, saying, "I could have done so much more." And I've heard a lot of people say that this little moment in the end is too over the top, and it was the starting point of when Spielberg kind of botched the endings. But it worked for me in this case. Because yeah, Oskar Schindler could have done so much more to save more Jewish people, but Ben Kingsley comes up and basically says, what you've done is more than enough. And that's not the exact dialogue, but the fact that Oskar Schindler saved the amount of Jewish people that he did is something that is commendable. And the movie, for as rough as it is, does leave you on a happy ending. Now, I think as an audience member, we already got the hint that Schindler had a change of heart when he saw the little girl in red being wheeled out in a wagon dead. So I can understand why some people thinking him breaking down crying is a little too much, but it's still effective at the end of the day. And Ben Kingsley himself is great as well. There is no actor in this movie that half-asses their performance. Even if it's just an extra, everyone showed up to work, they put their A game into it, and one of the actors that really stands out as well is Ralph Fiennes as the Nazi commander. This guy is completely despicable. There are several moments throughout the movie where he takes pleasure in killing Jewish people. There's a sequence in the movie where he just gets out of bed and casually pulls out a sniper rifle while he's in an undershirt and boxers and just snipes off Jewish people from his balcony as there's a topless woman in his bed. That is just pure evil right there. And again, props to Steven Spielberg for not shying away from the violence. Spielberg's direction in this movie is just phenomenal. He nails all the intense moments. He nails all the dramatic sequences. There's a reason why he won Best Director for this movie. And John Williams' score is fantastic as well. It fits the mood perfectly, and it doesn't drown out all these intense sequences. To be honest, this isn't among my top 10 favorite John Williams scores. However, it does have my favorite John Williams story. It's of course common knowledge that John Williams scores most of Steven Spielberg's movies. So when Steven Spielberg approached John Williams to score Schindler's List, Williams thought the movie was far too challenging and told Spielberg, "You need a better composer than I am for this film." And Spielberg's response was, and I quote, "I know, but they're all dead." So while this may not be my favorite John Williams score, if you ever needed a story to prove that John Williams is the single greatest film composer alive today, I don't think you can find a better story than this one, because in the same year, much like with Steven Spielberg, he gave us two masterpieces with the score for Schindler's List and the score for Jurassic Park. And watching Schindler's List, I can really see why they went for this score. I still would have loved it if they nominated Jurassic Park for the Oscars, but, you know, that's the past. There is not a single flaw in this movie. It is expertly crafted on every level, from Spielberg's direction, the cinematography, the acting, the score. It is about as perfect as a movie as it can be. The only thing that's keeping me from saying get off your ass and go see it right now is kind of the same thing that kept me from absolutely loving 12 Years a Slave, where I think this is a fantastic movie on every angle, but I will never watch it again because this movie is so intense that it just doesn't warrant repeated viewing. That being said though, while I'm not giving it my highest rating, it is a movie that everybody needs to see in their lifetime. It is so worth seeing in your lifetime, and such an important movie that you just can't really ignore, even if you only see it once. I encourage everyone out there to give Schindler's List a shot, but you gotta be in the right mindset because it is not a movie that you can just go in at any day. You have to be in the right mindset to watch Schindler's List. And while it is extremely heavy, it does leave you with a sense of hope in the end. So yeah, 1993 was truly the best year for Steven Spielberg because he proved that not only can he deliver these amazing blockbuster movies that we'll remember forever, but he can also nail these intense, heavy dramas and get Oscars for them. And there you go, that's my review for Schindler's List, and this concludes Best Picture Month. Now with the Oscars airing on March 10th, which movie will take home the next Best Picture Oscar? I think all signs point to Oppenheimer. Even though my favorite of the nominees is Past Lives, I feel like the Academy is going to go for Oppenheimer because it's finally Christopher Nolan's time. Like, he's done so many fantastic movies. I think the Academy is going into this year with the mindset of it's his time. So if Oppenheimer wins the Oscar for Best Picture, I have no issues with that at all because it is truly a great film. Now, as for next month's double feature retro review series, let's lighten things up a bit, because watching and reviewing Schindler's List was pretty rough. I want to have some fun. So next month is going to be what I'm calling the Exploitation Double Feature Month, and the movies I've decided to review in this series are the Grindhouse double feature, Planet Terror and Death Proof from Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino, but also the two Crank movies. I've always been curious to see what Rodriguez and Tarantino's Grindhouse movie is, but I've also been looking for any opportunity to talk about the two Crank films. Once I actually get into the reviews, I'll elaborate further on why I've paired these four movies together, but I hope you all stick around and stay tuned for Exploitation Double Feature Month in March. But until then, I want to know what you guys think about Schindler's List. Whatever your opinions are, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. If you want to find me elsewhere on YouTube, you can go check out my theme park and travel channel, Alexander Robinson Travel Channel, and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.